y'all. Thank you for tuning into Gathering with God. And right now it is the afternoon and it's approximately 2:54 after school. But for you, I don't know if you're listening to this in the morning, evening, or whatever, but welcome to this podcast. This is the new before your day starts with Gathering with God. And we're on episode 7. And I'm so glad I've been doing this journey with y'all. And I'm sorry I haven't done a lot of episodes this semester. I'm also working on your dad's playlist. So if you want to go listen to that, you definitely should. It's very fun, very, very cool. So I haven't had much time to work on this podcast, but I'm so glad that I've gotten to do it today. And so this will be a short devotion for listeners to view and meditate on before their day starts. So get ready for a motivational devotion before your day starts. But before we get into that, I really wanted to do just, a little life update. So I tried out for basketball cheer 2 weeks ago, and I actually made the team. I'm so very excited because I haven't done cheer in so very long, and I'm glad to be part of a team here at Wanna Grove. And I made a ton of new friends, and a lot of them are very sweet, and I'm just really excited to, do that in October because that's when we start practicing. Other than that, I went on a cruise for 5 days last week for spring break. And it was really fun, and we went to Princess K's in Nassau. Very interesting, a lot of cool stories that happened there. And honestly, after we got home, I kind of just hung out with my friends, and I saw the Minecraft movie, which is very interesting. Article coming out about that on Friday, so also go read that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So getting into the sponsor before we get into our main topic. A special thanks to Silver Sky Woodworking for their support of our channel. Without them, it would be impossible to record this. If any of our listeners need custom furniture, accent walls, cutting boards, or custom cabinets, they should head to veridiannews.org and click the link for Silver Sky. And we are always looking for new sponsors, so let us know on veridiannews.org if you'd like to be a part of our work and reach our audience with us. We would also like to thank Miss Kelly Moss, mother of Jake and Jack Moss on the varsity football team and track team for donating as a great Patreon. And we are always looking for new Patreons and sponsors, so let us know on veridiannews.org if you'd like to be part of our work and reach our audience with us. We really need your help, and we appreciate any donation, sponsorship, and listeners of Veridian News. Please check out our GoFund on our Veridian News website. And alright, so now that is done, we are getting into Moses' origin story. So I'm hoping after this will give us a little insight into basically what Moses' life was like, because we always think about him as like an older guy, that helped, obviously led the Israelites out of Egypt into the wilderness and was giving them just a chance to be free and get to the promised land, which, fun fact, he never even got to the promised land, which is insane because that's what he was working towards and that's what he was believing in for the longest time. But I think that means, though, is that God puts us in situations and we might not even see the outcome, but our impact made a difference. So we are going to be in Exodus 2:1 through, so that's the second chapter, and we're also going to be in the fourth chapter, ending on verse 31. So if you have a Bible or anything, get that out. And if you want, get a little snack, get a little drink, and let's get into this. Let's just dive in. So I will read this. This is verse 2:1. Not verse 2. Chapter 2:1. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds of the bank of the Nile. And so, just a little backstory on, because it kind of just dives into his, personally his life. But at this time, the Israelites were being oppressed by the Egyptians. And the reason why he was oppressing the Israelites is because I think he knew kind of God's reputation and the Israelites' reputation, because throughout history, the Israelites have been victorious whenever they have been following God. But of course, if they're not as victorious as if they're with God. So he knows their reputation. He knows how good they are in battle. He knows, what they believe in and all of this stuff, because they've been living together for a while. And so the Pharaoh was like, oh no, we're not having a riot up in here. We're not having them boycott everything that we stand for, and then they overtake us, and then we're just left out to dry. So, and that was the bell. I don't know if you heard that. So the Pharaoh of Egypt wanted to oppress the Israelites, so he devised 2 plans. One, he worked them really hard, so he abused them. He made them build all of these different statues and all this different stuff. But obviously, his main purpose was to make sure that they didn't multiply and overtake him. But that did not work, and they still multiplied. They still had children. They still had many boys and girls. And so the second one, which I necessarily don't think worked, but it was, I guess, a good effort by him, but it did not work very well either. He decreed that every Hebrew boy should die and that the girls should live. And that's just, again, he doesn't want them to develop armies and overtake him. And so that's kind of at the place we are now. So we have Moses' mother, we have his sister and brother, and they're living in this oppressive place, and it's really hard for them. And so that's kind of the odds that Moses is against at this point in time. Verse 4, his sister stood at the distance to see what would happen to him. So he's in the Nile River right now. And honestly, I feel like this is honestly another miracle in this story, because he could have died in that river. But the fact that God was with him makes a difference. Verse 5, then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrew babies, she said. And another miracle number 2, is that it's a miracle that Pharaoh's daughter didn't decide to kill him, like the decree from Pharaoh himself. Instead, she felt compassion for him and raised him as her son. And another thing, too, is we're about to see from verse 7 to 10, is that she goes, and I don't know if this is the Lord leading her. It's definitely not a coincidence. But she goes and gets the baby's mother. And she's like, yo, take care of this baby for me, because back then the princesses are obviously not going to do all of this different stuff, because, I'm not going to say spoiled, but they have servants to do stuff. So why would they do it if someone else can? I don't know. But anyways, so the mother, the biological mother of Moses, takes care of her son. But he is living under another person's name. He's living in another person's household. Which, another thing too, is not only did she have to put him in the river, and she didn't know if he was going to die or not, she also has to see him grow up in a different house, which is terrifying. And I'm sure, I don't have a kid, but, that would be really hard for me. Verse 11 is when it gets really interesting. One day after Moses grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. And if you've ever seen the movie about Moses, it's called The Prince of Egypt. And I think the movie it does change up a little bit just to make it more interesting. But something that the movie does not uphold is that he, in the movie, didn't know that he was not Pharaoh's son. Well, Pharaoh was not his grandfather, because, yeah, that's confusing. But obviously in the original story, the original, like, real story, he knew. And so he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and I think, like, he was going through a lot of emotions, and he believed that the only way to stop the Egyptians was to kill, because I didn't even think about this until now, but you see in, like, this beginning part of the story, Pharaoh's solution was to kill the newborn babies, the boy babies. But again, and he, I guess, learned it from him, the only way to stop an Egyptian is to kill him. And so we see here, it's just a chain of reaction from Pharaoh to Moses to probably the rest of the Israelites and the other Egyptians. So I think that's pretty interesting. It just shows how your influence impacts people, especially if you have a platform or anything. And so, verse 12, looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw 2 Hebrews fighting. He asked one of them in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must become known." It's kind of like when you get in trouble at school or something, you're like, crap, my parents are going to know. And that's how he was feeling. He's like, I got to get out of here, because if Pharaoh finds out that I did this, he's going to be really mad and probably going to try to kill me. Which, yes, 15, that's what it says. And Pharaoh heard of this, and he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian. And at this time, he ends up meeting this man. He has daughters. He ends up marrying one of the daughters. They have kids. Moses ends up becoming totally different from Egyptian Moses, where he had so much privilege, so much influence. And then now he's over here living in pastures. He is a shepherd now. I'm pretty sure that's kind of what it said in the movie, but, you know, movie unreliable, obviously. But, yeah. And so he ends up marrying, having kids, and verse 23 pick up. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out in their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Okay, yes, he is a shepherd. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Oh, so now we're in chapter 3, verse 2. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within the bush. A bush. Sorry, guys. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight. Why was the bush not burning up? Which, spoiler alert, is God. So, only God can do amazing stuff like that. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called him from within the bush. I cannot talk. Moses, Moses. Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you stand is holy ground. And so I think of this part as really significant, in which, when I was younger, I did not think this was significant. I was just like, oh, he's taking off his shoes because that's what God said to do, you know? But now I think of it as he's calling him to take off his shoes because at this point in time, Jesus has not died on the cross. Sin has not been abolished. And so at this time, Moses was unequal to God because God's perfect and Moses is not, as we can see. And so him taking off his shoes is like, this is sacred ground because this is my perfect creation and you're in my presence. And so to become bunny ear equal, which quote unquote equal, it's not possible at this time. He had to do certain things, and I guess that's just one of the things, which now that you think about it, doesn't seem that significant, but to me it really is. And so now God is basically telling him like who he is, And Moses is afraid because he knows what he's done. He knows God knows the stuff he has done. He knows that God knows that he left Egypt. He knows that he killed someone. He knows all the different things he's done wrong that we don't even know about. God knows all this stuff. And God knows that about us. So verse 7, chapter 3, the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and bring them out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring the people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And so you're going to keep seeing through here, Moses and Jesus go back and forth. I mean, not Jesus. God goes back and forth. Moses is like, no, I'm not worthy of this. God's like, yes, you are. I'm telling you to do this. I know you can do it. Moses is like, no, I'm not good at speaking. I'm very shy. And God's like, please stop talking. Please just, like, do what I need you to do. Like, I kind of need you to save these people. And he's like, nah, I'm not good at this. And honestly, these back and forth stuff, I'd be like, bro, okay, I'm going to go pick someone else. I'm going to go pick your brother Aaron. Yeah, I think he's up for the task. But the thing is, it's not about... When we say no, God says yes. And no matter if we keep saying no, God's still going to say yes, and he's still going to choose us. And I think that's something amazing, is that our story is never... It's never going to just be rewritten just because we say no. And hopefully, eventually, we end up, choosing God and doing what he wants us to do, because that's the most perfect thing possible. And I'm sure Moses was like, heck no, I'm not doing this. This is going to be not only a lot of work, which, but it's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be hard to convince the Israelites because I literally killed someone in front of them and had that whole fiasco. They think I'm a little rich boy, But it's also, Pharaoh hates me. His family hates me, even though he's dead. So this is not going to work. I don't know what you're talking about. You got the wrong guy. And God's like, no, this is part of my plan. And the one big thing that keeps happening is I think Moses is thinking how will they believe me if I go up to them and say, hey, God told me to I'm going to save you and take us all out of Egypt. They're going to be like, okay, hit the bricks, buddy. You're wrong. I think, and then God's like, I am who I am. And I think that's powerful. He is who he is no matter what. No matter if people believe you or not. And that's really powerful to me, honestly. And he's like, I am the God of your ancestors, and I've promised them that I'm going to bring their people to victory. So you can keep whining all this all you want, but it is what it is. I am who I am, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And so we get into the staff and then we're in verse 2, chapter 4. Then the Lord said to him, what is in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses just throws it on the ground and it becomes a snake. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out, took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff into his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe God, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. And so they shows him another sign. So he puts his hand inside his cloak, he takes it out, it becomes leprous, which leprous is basically a disease back then that people would die from. Kind of like the chicken pox or something like that, they have boils on their skin, very, very gross. And so that's what his hand became when he took it out of his coat. He put his hand back in his coat and it became perfect. So then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe the first two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile, pour it on the dry ground, and the water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. Which, foreshadowing into one of God's many signs to Pharaoh to let his people go. And again, Moses is like, I cannot do this. I'm really bad talking. And I think verse 11 in chapter 4 is one of the best quotes. One of the best quotes for this podcast episode. The Lord said to him, Who gave human beings their mouths? Who made them deaf or mute? Who gave them sight or made them blind? Is not I the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. So Moses is saying, I can't speak. I'm not good at speaking, which a lot of us can say that. But it's also, God's like, I'm the one that created you this way. So don't you think I would know that you can do this? I think that's just how he's feeling. But then now God's angry, which, not gonna lie, I kind of will be too. And so he's saying that his brother Aaron can help him out. So Moses goes back in verse 18 goes back to his father-in-law and says, Hey, can I go back to Egypt? And he's like, Yes, you may. Even God foreshadows this. The Lord's in verse 21, the Lord said to Moses, When you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all of the wonders that I have given you the power to do. But I will harden his heart so that he may not let the people go. Then say to Pharaoh, This is what the Lord says, Israel is my firstborn son. I have told you, let my son go so he may worship me. But you refuse to let him go, so I will kill your firstborn son. And that's where we're going to end today. Not a cliffhanger, because you can obviously go read what happens next, and a lot of us know. But we're going to dive into why I think God tells Moses that Pharaoh's, like, he will harden Pharaoh's heart, because that is a really big topic to discuss, and a lot of people are very confused by it, because why would God do that? And so, thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm so sorry to put you on a cliffhanger. I promise you can go read it. It's not long at all, and it's really interesting. I honestly recommend go reading it so that you have more background. So tune in next time for another motivational devotion or testimony from a Wanna student. And just remember, God made you special and he loves you very much. Have a blessed day.